When we think of the Great Depression, do you picture throngs of starving families and empty dinner tables? Most of us do. But beyond the hardship, the Great Depression spelled out something else entirely. It sparked a revolution in American home cooking. People had almost nothing, and they turned almost nothing into meals that kept entire families alive, fed, and together. These weren't junk meals. They were inventive, resourceful, and in many cases, genuinely delicious. And most of them have completely vanished from today's kitchens. Back then, a family of 8 ate fully on $5 a week, not $5 per person, $5 total. And these are the 10 recipes that made it possible. We went back through the oldest recipe cards, the grease-stained church cookbooks, and the handwritten notes tucked inside flour sacks to bring you 10 Depression-era recipes your great-grandmother fed a family of 8 on. They're cheap, they're filling, and they just might be the most useful cooking knowledge you'll find today. Skillet tomato crumble. This one came from a 1930s church basement cookbook in Indiana, a side dish so quick you'd think it was a snack. But for broke families back then, it was dinner. All it took was a hot cast iron skillet, a can of stewed tomatoes, and a handful of crushed saltine crackers. Folks would toss the tomatoes into sizzling lard or bacon grease, stir until bubbling, then sprinkle the crackers right on top. No cheese, no herbs, no fancy nothing. Just heat, salt, and crunch. By the time the kids were done washing their hands, supper was ready. Mothers swore by it, not because it was gourmet, but because it filled the belly fast and made use of whatever was left in the pantry. For kids who'd spent the day hauling coal or picking beans, that salty tomato steam meant comfort. Some even remembered the sound of those crackers crackling as they soaked up the juice. Something so simple, it meant so much. Emergency egg hash. This one came from the back page of a 1942 wartime homemakers guide, printed when meat was rationed, gas was tight, and nobody had time to peel potatoes for breakfast. Take stale bread, torn not sliced, and toss it in a greased skillet with whatever scraps you had. A spoonful of onions, a bit of bacon fat, or a chopped pickle if you were lucky. Once it browned, crack in a couple eggs and stir like mad for 90 seconds. It wasn't pretty, but it was fast, hot, and surprisingly good. School kids used to call it pan scramble and race home, hoping Ma hadn't run out of eggs that day. And years later, after the war ended, some families kept making it. Not because they had to, but because they missed it. That smell, that sound, that skillet, survival turned into tradition. Railroad bean mash. This one wasn't written in a cookbook. It was passed around by word of mouth from train car to train car during the 1920s and 30s. Hobos, porters, and traveling workers all knew it by different names. Bean mash, hobo spread, freight car lunch. But the recipe stayed the same. 1 can of beans, 1 heel of bread, whatever seasoning you could pocket or trade. Heat the beans right in the can over whatever fire you could find. Smash stale bread into it with the back of a spoon, stir like crazy, eat from the can with 2 hands, 3 minutes tops. Some men even carved recipes into boxcar walls so the next traveler wouldn't go hungry. It wasn't just food, it was community in a can. And many of those men settled down and kept making the same mash, not because they had to, because it reminded them of when they had nothing and still shared everything. Whispered milk gravy. You wouldn't find this one in magazines or even most cookbooks. It lived in memory, passed quietly between mothers and daughters, scribbled on the inside cover of Bible pages or on the back of flour sacks. It started with a dab of saved fat in a hot skillet, bacon grease if you had it, lard if you didn't. Then a spoonful of flour stirred fast until golden. Finally, in went the milk, a splash at a time, until it thickened into something creamy and smooth. No measurements, no timers, just instinct. It was poured over boiled potatoes, leftover biscuits, canned vegetables when meat was scarce. Some nights the gravy was the whole meal, not a topping. A wide bowl, a ladleful, a shake of pepper, and a spoon for every kid at the table. It tasted like care more than cream. Like someone stayed standing so you could sit and eat. Mulligan stew. This wasn't your fancy beef stew. It was a throw everything in the pot kind of deal. Potatoes, carrots, onions, maybe some barley, whatever meat was on hand, if any. During the Depression, homeless men gathered around campfires in hobo camps, each person tossing in whatever food they had, hoping the combined result would be more satisfying than what they started with. It made you feel like you were getting a real meal, even if it was mostly broth. And sometimes, during the worst years in American history, that feeling was enough. Stop here for a moment, because this is where the story gets interesting. These weren't meals people ate because they gave up. They were meals invented because giving up wasn't an option. Every scrap went back in the pot. Every bone made the next broth. Every heel of bread became the next meal. That knowledge kept families alive, and it's almost completely gone now. Cold milk soup. Desperate times called for desperate measures. Cold milk soup was a Depression-era staple, and it's exactly what it sounds like. This dish has Amish origins and was one of the most popular meals of the era. Take some milk, mix in sliced bananas, a bit of sugar, and sometimes bread or other fruits. That's it. No cooking required. For many families, this was a quick and easy way to get calories and nutrients on hot summer days when turning on the stove was out of the question. The bananas added sweetness, the milk provided protein and fat, and the whole thing came together in minutes from whatever was in the house. It wasn't a meal anyone would have chosen, but on the days when it was all there was, it was enough. Potato pancakes. Potatoes were one of the most available and affordable vegetables during the Depression. Because flour and butter were often out of reach, potato pancakes became the go-to breakfast and sometimes dinner across America. Grated potatoes, simple seasonings, fried in a pan until golden, the outside crisped while the inside stayed soft and steaming. Grandmothers fried them in bacon grease and served them with applesauce or sour cream if they had it, or plain salt if they didn't. Kids ate them standing at the stove before they ever hit the plate. Grandmothers mastered this during the Depression and kept making it for decades because it simply worked. Brown sugar apple rings. When the gravy bowl scraped clean, some mothers went right back to that hot skillet and made dessert out of almost nothing. One apple sliced into thin rings with the peel left on slipped into a little butter or bacon grease. A quick dust of brown sugar, a pinch of cinnamon, and a tiny splash of vinegar to wake it up. 2 minutes per side, and the sugar turned shiny and glassy. The kitchen smelled like fairground pie. Most nights there was only one apple to go around, so the knife did careful work. Thin slices meant more smiles. And for those 5 sweet minutes, the whole room got quiet. Not because there was nothing left to do, but because this was the part worth pausing for. Depression cake. They also called it war cake. And it proved that even when things were economically as bad as they'd ever been, people still had a sweet tooth. It wasn't just a silly craving, it was a sign of comfort and a reminder of more normal days. Depression cake had no eggs, no butter, and no milk. Instead, it used water, oil, vinegar, and baking soda, a chemical reaction that did the work eggs normally do. The cost dropped to almost nothing. Into the oven it went, and out came something moist and rich that had no business being as good as it was. Your great-grandmother made this. Her mother made it before her. The recipe cost almost nothing, but the cake tasted like someone was trying very hard to make things feel normal. And during the Depression, that effort was its own kind of love. Those are 10 recipes. Made from canned goods, a handful of scraps, backyard greens, 1 apple, and whatever the cast iron skillet had left to give. None of them required a delivery app. None of them needed a supermarket run. None cost more than a few cents to put on the table. Your great-grandmother fed 8 people on $5 a week. She did it every night. And the knowledge she used is still the most practical, most affordable, most filling cooking available today. We just forgot to pass it on. If any of these brought back a memory, hit subscribe. And share this with someone who needs to remember that the best meals never cost very much at all.